Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to full council. During the meeting today, I will be making rulings on process and conduct during the meeting and would ask council to abide by the standing orders and rules of debate. At certain times, I may seek guidance from my advisors, and should we need to adjourn, I will inform council of what is happening and a time for us to reconvene. We all enjoy robust, respectful debate. On occasion, in previous meetings, there were words and actions that I would consider to fall short of the standards we set ourselves, and I would ask all members to ensure that their words are respectful and behaviour is exemplary. If members' speeches run over the time allocated, I will allow you to finish your sentence, but ask you to finish as quickly as possible. I would also like to take this opportunity to remind members that there is no local government equivalent of parliamentary privilege. Members will therefore be liable for any defamatory statements they make. If you wish to speak during the meeting, I would ask that you raise your hand and wait for me to invite you to speak. Please raise any points of order verbally. I will then pause the meeting to deal with the point of order. When raising a point of order, please state which procedure, rule or law you believe has been breached. All votes will be conducted via the electronic voting system today. If we receive any amendments or the recommendations before council today, I will adjourn to ensure that all members have adequate time to read the amendment. Today's extraordinary meeting has been arranged to discuss the appointment of honorary freemen of the city. Following that meeting, we will move into the ordinary meeting of the council. I move to item 1. Apologies. Are there any apologies for absence?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. We've apologies from Councillors Ney, Stevens, Finn, and I understand Councillor Darcy will be running late. We've also received apologies from Councillor Loveridge.
Thank you. Can I ask if there are any further apologies? No. I move to my item 2 on the agenda, declarations of interest. Can members please make it known by raising their hand, please, if they have any private or disposable pecuniary interests in any matters on today's agenda. My advisor will take a record of the interests declared. Thank you, members. Are there any further interests? Nothing. Thank you very much. Councillor Evans, Leader of Council, I understand you are introducing the motion. Of the appointment of honorary freemen. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I'm going to have to speak fast because I've been asked to introduce all 3 at once. If you'll give me a bit of slack, I'd be grateful. Can I start on the suspicious occasion by with Linda Gilroy, who can't be with us today. But Linda was elected in 1997 for Plymouth Sutton and was re-elected in 2001 and 2005, serving until 2010 when the new seat of Plymouth Sutton and Devonport was established. Now, Linda's 13 years in Parliament for Sutton marked a significant chapter in our city's history, following in the footsteps of pioneering women like Nancy Astor, of course. She continued a tradition of strong female representation in Plymouth politics. And her work extended far beyond constituency matters, of course. She served on the Defence Select Committee, arguing for Devonport always, and in fact being responsible for, in my view, for getting that wall taken down so that we could continue the regeneration of Devonport. The fact that we got that new housing, the New Deal for communities, is in large measure down to Linda's advocacy for that, even though she didn't represent that part of the city at that time. But her work outside of Parliament as well, you know, she had a long history, 17 years with the Gas Consumer Council down in the southwest of England, championing consumers against nationalised and private gas industries. If I could turn to Sir Gary, your extraordinary 32-year parliamentary career representing, obviously, South West Devon in the end, it's left an indelible mark on our region. You were first elected to Parliament in '92, following that extraordinary couple of days with Alan Clark, when he took us all by surprise, announcing his departure. And you went on to represent South West Devon from 1997 till 2024, winning 8 consecutive elections. Amazing. With substantial majorities. Your election success reflected the deep trust that your constituents placed on you. And, you know, I think it's fair to say that we relied on you a lot in cross-party working in the city. You were always able to be with us on things like the Devonport Task Force, cutting through the chaff to get that common sense that we always needed to deliver cross-party working. And as you were the longest serving MP in Devon and Cornwall. It's an amazing record. Your dedication to public service has set a really high bar for future people. By the way, Gary beat me in 1987. It's my only loss in city council elections, you know, and that would be reason enough, wouldn't it, to give him freedom of the city. Finally, Kevin, you embody the very heart and soul of Plymouth Argyle Football Club. Your unwavering commitment has been demonstrated time and time and time again. Caretaker manager on so many occasions between 2013 and 2025. In each instance, you stepped up, you lent in, you stepped and took us forward when the club needed leadership most. Your achievements speak volumes, from the Premier League opposition victory for the first time in 40 years to the crucial wins against Leicester and Hull that secured survival last season, of course. And your nurturing of homegrown talent through our academy has created a legacy that will benefit the club for years to come. Perhaps most remarkably, you've achieved all this while maintaining an admirable humility, always placing the spotlight on others rather than yourself. We're really proud of you. So, Lord Mayor, each one of our freemen that we're proposing today has contributed uniquely to Plymouth through political service, community leadership and sporting excellence. And on behalf of all Plymouth citizens, I extend our deepest gratitude. Your work has strengthened our city and inspired future generations to serve their community with the same passion and dedication as you have shown. Lord Mayor, I move the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Evans. Do any other members wish to speak? What, Councillor Matt Smith. Councillor Matt Smith, would you like to speak next?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I'm really, really happy to be seconding this motion for all 3 of the people that we're nominating today. But I'm going to say a few words about Kevin Nanskivell particularly. As an Argyle fan and a councillor, I feel really, really lucky to be able to bring this motion today. For those of you who don't know much about Nance, he's been an Argyle coach for about 20 years now. But the remarkable thing about those 20 years is the 5 occasions where he has taken over to be our caretaker manager. Always when the club is going through difficult times, when we're not getting the results that we need, and when we need that bit of leadership to take us forward after parting ways with another manager. So all of those times that Kevin has been in charge of Argyle have not come because he wanted to be the manager of a professional football club. They've been because of his love for the club, his love for the city, and because of a sense of duty that he has as an Argyle coach. And I think he summed up his own sense of duty and his own love for the club really well when he was interviewed at the beginning of his 5th spell at the very end of December last year. He said, "I'm not a manager. I've been saying it for 20 years. I don't want to be a manager, but I love this football club more than anything apart from my family. And when it asks me to do something, I will do it." And despite supposedly not being a manager, Kevin has taken charge of 14 matches as Argyle manager, secured 4 wins, 6 draws and 4 defeats, which would be a respectable record for any manager, let alone a caretaker manager taking over a club in really, really difficult circumstances. And there have been some really, really memorable moments in there too. Tudor alluded to a few of them. I think of 2019 actually, which maybe wasn't one of the best moments. It was the final game of the season. Kevin was asked to take charge after we parted company with Derek Adams. And we needed a win that day to stand any chance of staying up. And results elsewhere were ultimately what relegated us, but Kevin stepped in for that one game and got us the win that we would have needed if results had gone the other way. There was last season keeping us in the Championship on the final day of the season after really memorable results against Leicester City and Hull at Home Park. And just this season, as Tudor said, he took on a team in a terrible run of form who hadn't won away from home in 9 months and took us to Premier League opposition. He won, and not only did he win, he beat Premier League opposition for the first time for the club in 40 years. And that created this now viral moment of when he ran over to the away fans, he punched the air, he let out a cheer. And in footage of that moment, you can really see that how much it meant to him, and his lip quivered a little bit just after he let out that roar. And to be honest, who can blame him? Because as Argyle fans, we have a lot of coaches, managers, players who come to the club. They tell us they love the club. We want to believe them, but to be honest, we're not always sure if they do because players come and go. But when Nance says that he loves Plymouth Argyle, we know that he does. And so that then comes to the question of why the freedom of the city. And really, it's really, really simple because Plymouth Argyle is at the very, very heart of our city. When the club's doing well, our city and its people tend to be doing really well too. And over the past 20 years, nobody's given more to Argyle than Kevin Nanscoville. So I'll just end by reflecting on a song that us Argyle fans have for Kevin Nanscoville. And don't worry, I'm not going to sing. But it is to the tune of Mrs. Robinson by Simon and Garfunkel. And it's very, very simply, so here's to you, Kevin Nanscoville, Argyle loves you more than you will know. And I really hope that by giving him this honour today, we're really able to convey just how much he means to tens of thousands of people across the city. So thank you, Kevin.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Councillor Lugger, would you like to speak?
I'm obliged, my Lord Mayor. Well, the freedom of a city is an ancient honour which was traditionally granted to martial organisations to allow them to form a troop, march into a city with drums beating and flags waving and bayonets fixed. Could I ask Sir Gary Streeter, will the mighty clan Streeter form a troop and march under the council chamber? In 1988, Gary Streeter and I both joined the Conservative Party. I was finishing my A-levels and joined the Addison Road Young Conservatives. But Gary, many years my senior, was already an established, politician. From 1986 to 1992, you held the seat in this very chamber as the councillor for Mount Gold. And of course, in those days, it was the old SDP with your dear friend Sir David Owen and Councillor Nicholson, who's behind. Then, Member of Parliament for Sutton. Remember, in those days, the constituencies and the boundaries were very different. Confusingly, the old Plymouth Sutton became South West Devon, and what left of that was carved up to the now Sutton and Devonport. So from the 9th of April 1992 to the 8th of April 1997, Gary was Member of Parliament for Sutton. Then in 1997, South West Devon, diligently serving the constituents of his constituency right up until retirement last year. It was a proud day for me when Gary became a minister for the first time under dear old Lord Mackay. He was a junior minister in that department, and I remember you invited myself and a few political friends to Westminster to meet Lord Mackay in those days. But I do have a humorous recollection of your first week in office as a minister. Gary was given a ministerial car, and a few friends, we all met up down at Old Newnham Farm to greet him coming back to his constituency that Friday. And being a petrol head, as you probably all know, I was hoping to see a wonderful Rover V8 or a Jaguar ministerial car steaming down the driveway. And what should turn up was a tiny little Ford Mondeo with Gary in the front seat. And unfortunately, it didn't even have a ministerial flag on the front bonnet. Well, Tony Blair defeated the Conservative Party in 1997, and Gary had great links with the former Prime Minister, John Major. There was many a time that John Major would come to visit Gary at Old Newnham Farm. And on one occasion, I remember he was reading his newspaper in his dressing gown in Gary's drawing room. Well, in opposition, Gary became the Shadow Secretary of State for International Development. Again, it was a proud day for us and his political friends when he was knighted for services to his constituency. And Janet was more proud than anyone else for that occasion. So you stand before us, or sit before us at the moment, as a man of conviction and a man of faith. Somebody who has always taken a personal interest in his constituents and his friends. He, together with Cathy Watkin, Councillor Watkin behind, took a personal interest in me when I left law school looking for my first job. He has helped many, many people, many, many constituents, both with compassion and enthusiasm. And I'm pleased to call him one of my oldest political friends. So I'm very pleased, well, I'm not the second appointment, but I'm very pleased to endorse it. Thank you, my Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Lager. Councillor Rainsford, would you like to speak?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I'm delighted to follow Councillors Lager, Evans and Smith, who have set out in great detail the history and dedication of the individuals we are nominating for freedom of the city. I'm delighted to support all three candidates. I worked closely cross-party over many years in the interests of the city with Sir Gary, and his qualities of patience, commitment, local and parliamentary knowledge, and his genuine kindness make him a worthy candidate. Nanks, if I may, beloved of the Green Army, renowned for his loyalty, hard work, modesty, and dedication to Plymouth Argyle, definitely deserves this recognition. And finally, my close colleague and friend, Linda Gilroy, who, when I gave my maiden speech in Parliament, I described as being run through like a stick of rock with the words City of Plymouth. And everything she did, every speech she gave, had Plymouth at its heart. She gave shout-outs regularly for the city and everything it offered. She praised it. She argued strongly for its needs and still cares deeply about its people. Another thoroughly deserving candidate for freedom of our city. And I think on behalf of everybody in the chamber, I just want to thank all three of the candidates here today for everything they've done. And so thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Rainsford. Councillor Evans, would you like to sum up? I beg your pardon, Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I hadn't actually put my name down, but Councillor Evans has eyeballed me across the chamber. I didn't want to. I'm here, I suppose, like everybody else, to congratulate all three of the candidates this afternoon. Sadly, I haven't had the privilege yet of meeting Kevin, but hopefully over the next few years that will come to pass, because clearly you're a man I should be getting to know and somebody that is great to emulate in terms of your modesty and your care and compassion for this city, which sound like traits that we should all be emulating. But I suppose I'm here, if I may, to speak particularly about Sir Gary, who is a very dear friend, as is Jan, his wife, and who, without whom literally I wouldn't be standing here this afternoon, because it was just over 25 years ago that Gary did a little week in Parliament with me, back in the days where you still went and photocopied articles in the House of Commons library, because I am actually that old. And he told me at the time that he thought 1 week in Parliament would give me an idea of whether or not I wanted to become an MP. Now, I never read it that way, aged 18, because some people at 18 want to become MPs, but I definitely didn't. But he had that faith in me all the way along, and I am another one of his many mentees that is, I think, part of the reason, particularly amongst his parliamentary colleagues, why he got his knighthood, for the work that he's quietly done behind the scenes, seeing potential in people and then spending his valuable time encouraging them along the way and making sure that they feel that they've got support to do that. So over the last 20 years, that's what Gary's done for me, and I feel incredibly privileged, because as a Plymouth girl who doesn't really have access to Parliament that easily, he made that opportunity for me, and technically wasn't even my MP. So even now, as someone offering work experience, I make sure where there's people who don't live in my constituency, I can help them along the way. So, I mean, there's a whole history of myself, my family, and the streeters that I won't go into today. But it is becoming a little bit of a running joke, because in my maiden speech in Parliament, I was able to spend quite a lot of time talking about Gary, actually, which was a real privilege. But I will tell you here today what I told everyone in the Chamber of the House, which is that the first time I ever saw Gary, I knew who he was, but the first time I saw him was at a Kylie Minogue concert on the 10th of December 1991, I think it was, and I was due to be going to school with his daughter Tamsin, so I knew who he was, and we were both there, and Gary was, there's Gary Streeter. He wasn't even an MP at that point, but it was kind of full circle when, back in September, I did my maiden speech and was able to talk in the passenger railway bill about the fact that I first met Gary whilst we were both listening to the locomotion. And now whenever I speak about Plymouth in transport debates, the Minister, Simon Lightfoot, and I have a little moment where he kind of doesn't like it if I do a speech without mentioning the locomotion now. So Gary and I go back a long way to those innocuous days watching Kylie Minogue at the Plymouth Pavilions, and I genuinely wouldn't be here today. So I'm delighted to be able to say well done, Gary, and thank you for everything you've done for me and everything you've done for the city. And as people said, it is a hard act to follow. He's got big feet to follow, and as I've also said, I'm a 4 and he's a 10, but still, hopefully, I can do something to go some way to emulate what he's done over those years. And just briefly to mention Linda as well. I think one of the brilliant things about being in politics, whether that's locally or nationally here in Plymouth, is knowing that we have that legacy of women in politics. And so to be able to talk about Nancy Astor in my maiden speech, to be able to have done the stats to see how many women MPs we've had in this city, of who Linda was obviously one, is an immense privilege as well, because to be representing Plymouth with Nancy Astor and that history, and I think I said this on election night, there's only been about 7 years, I think, since Alison was unseated in 2017 when we haven't had, or 2015 when we haven't had a woman MP, and I think that's an incredible record, and I stand here today again with a bit of that Gary vision to deliver that female MP in Plymouth for us once again. So I think all in all, what a fabulous afternoon, and I'm really pleased to be able to be here to say well done. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Anybody else who would like to speak? In that case, Councillor Evans, would you like to sum up, please?
Thank you very much indeed. Great speeches for great people. And you're absolutely right. That tradition of women of substance going and representing us in Parliament, I'm glad it continues. I just want to say something else I forgot to mention about Linda Gilroy. Or Linda Jarvie, her father, of course, we have to thank enormously for having designed the part of the M5 at Haldon Forest, which means that you can get out of Exeter at 70 miles an hour, and it's something that I'm always grateful for. But seriously, it's been an absolute joy talking about these these three remarkable individuals who have given such great service to our city. And I look forward to us hearing from them today, but also when we have a little bit of a do later on in the year to celebrate all three of them. But thank you for coming along today and making our meeting so special.
We shall now move to the vote to pass this resolution, that the Council confers on the following persons the title of Honorary Freeman: Sir Gary Streeter, Linda Gilroy, Kevin Nanskivel. As an expression of the admiration of the citizens of Plymouth for their achievements in the service of the city and in recognition of their outstanding leadership, distinguished contributions to public life and sporting excellence and lasting impact on our community. We will use the voting keypads: green in favour, red for, against, and amber to abstain. On behalf of the Council, I would like to offer Sir Gary Streeter the opportunity to address the Council.
Well, Lord Mayor, thank you so much. It's an absolute honour to be with you today. Is there a bit of feedback there, or is that okay? It's obviously been a privilege to represent so many citizens of Plymouth for so many years, but I would like you to know that what you are granting me and us today is one of the real highlights of my career and a very great honour, and I'm very, very grateful. I would like to make 2 or 3 things very clear. First of all, I was only at the Kylie Minogue concert because my son Gareth was very keen to go, and I was standing at the back as far as I know, Jan. Okay, we have a mismemory there then. Secondly, people say to you, what's the highlight of your career? And of course I do often say, beating Tudor Evans in 1987 in Mount Gold Ward. But what a fine leader of the council he's gone on to be. I feel quite moved because this is where it all started for me, 1986 in Mount Gold. And I believe from 1988 onwards, when I crossed the floor of the chamber, which was so respectfully mentioned by Andrew in his talk, I think, John, I think I sat where Councillor John Stevens is sitting right now, beside the late and great Vivian Pengelly. And this is bringing back so many memories and making me quite emotional, because those were very happy days. I think I was the chairman of housing, I think, for 2 or 3 years, and that was a wonderful thing to serve people in their housing needs. I did get a bit upset when on one Sunday evening, I don't know why I'm saying this, and Jan's going to be cross with me when we get out in a moment, when I had a phone call from a council tenant saying, my washing line has broken this Sunday evening. Can you come round and fix it tonight? And I said, sorry, are you disabled? You know, is there a problem in some way that you can't do that yourself? And he said, no, but I understand you're the chairman of housing. You should come round and do it for me. But Lord Mayor, I have to say, with all humility, I didn't go. And just made sure the officers did it the next day. But it was a wonderful privilege to be sitting in that place, learning so much, and just being part of what is a great city. So let me just finish by saying that I've been fond of saying in the last few years that Plymouth is a city in serious danger of achieving its potential. I know Johnny Mercer used to say it as well, but I said it first, I believe. And that is in no small measure due to the leadership that you have given in this chamber. You, the elected members, the leader, the excellent senior leadership team led by, I think, the remarkable Chief Executive, Tracy Lee. In no small measure, you have given leadership to turn this city around in the last 10 years, and we are now seriously in danger of achieving our potential. And isn't that a wonderful thing? This is a great city. It's been an honour and a privilege to serve some of its citizens for so many years. And what you are granting me and us today is one of the greatest honours of my life. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sir Gary. I look forward to seeing you again at the formal ceremony. And on behalf of the Council, I would like to offer Kevin Nanskivel the opportunity to address Council.
Thank you, Lord Mayor, councillors. I feel very honoured, very humbled to be stood here in front of you all today. It's a real privilege, and I'm very, very proud. Plymouth as a city has got lots of values that really we like to show in everyday work at Argo. It's a proud city, it's a passionate city, it's a hard-working city, and I like to think every day everybody at Argo lives by those values as well. Argyle is very, very proud of Plymouth as a city, and I hope Plymouth is very, very proud of Argo as a football club. We are really hard work, and we really care, and we're very, very proud. I feel very humbled and honoured to be stood here in front of you. I just do my job. Thank you for the kind words that were said about me. I don't think I deserve them, but thank you anyway. Plymouth's been such a big part of my wife's and my life for a long, long time. So I'm really, really proud, really, really humbled. And again, thank you ever so much.
Thank you, Kevin. I look forward to seeing you again at the formal ceremony with Sir Gary and Linda. Members, as Linda Gilroy is not able to be with us today, I would like to put on record not only our thanks as a council, but also my personal congratulations. Linda, I hope you're watching, and I want to thank you for the contribution you have made to the city. I look forward to seeing you at the ceremony. This concludes the business of this extraordinary meeting, and we shall shortly move into our ordinary meeting of council. Right, we can start the full meeting now. And to begin the ordinary meeting, I move to item 1, apologies. Are there any apologies for absence?
Through you, Lord Mayor, we've apologies from Councillors Ney, Loveridge, Finn, Stevens, Councillor Darcy and Councillor Cudahy are both running late.
Are there any further apologies? And we'll then move on to item 2, the minutes. I will hand over to my advisor.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. We've been advised of 2 corrections to make to the minutes. Thank you to councillors who have brought this to our attention early. Following a review of the video, we will be making some amendments to the announcement by Councillor Stevens, which concerned cycle delivery drivers rather than all cyclists, and a correction to the question posed by Councillor Wood concerning the electoral cycle consultation and the associated costs. The question and answer should have read, how much did the electoral cycle review consultation and report cost, and what amount of people voting for a reform would have been sufficient for action? And the response reads, this was not a referendum to the extent that 180,000 Plymouthians allowed the council to make the decision on their behalf. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
I propose that we approve and sign the minutes of the meetings held on the 25th of November 2024 and the 9th of January 2025 as a correct record. Deputy Lord Mayor, would you second my proposal?
I second your proposal, Lord Mayor.
Does anybody wish to speak? No, that's it. We go to the vote then, please. Motion's carried. Point 3, declarations of interest. Can members please make it known by raising their hand, please, if they have any private or disclosable pecuniary interests in any of the matters on today's agenda. My advisor will take a record of the interests declared. Well, none. Thank you, Ms. Thank you, members. Are there any further interests to declare? No, that's good. Thank you. Appointments to committees, outside bodies, etc. Please could I ask Council to note the changes to committee membership in line with allocations as set out in the order paper. Deputy Lord Mayor, can I ask you to second the motion?
Second the motion, Lord Mayor.
Thank you. Does any member wish to speak? Councillor Hendy?
Just a clarification, did the papers note that Councillor Will Noble was going on the Fire Authority for Kevin Sproston? Please.
Through you, Lord Mayor, I don't have the paper in front of me at the moment, but I will double check that, and if it doesn't, I'll make that amendment.
Lord Mayor, it's on the order paper.
Thank you, as long as that's noted, thank you.
Thank you. Changes are noted. Questions by the public. I move to item 5, questions from the members of the public. There are 2 questions from today. Any questions and answers not heard will be published in the minutes and the response provided the questioner following the meeting. Oh, I apologise. I've just heard in the information that Grace Stickling cannot attend. So we'll be going on to the second question from Mr. Andrew Hill. Would you like to ask your question, please?
Thank you, my Lord Mayor. My question is to Councillor Coco. I understand has been sent the background information I sent in to give context to this question, which is, what steps have or are being taken to ensure computer software and hardware in car park machines and the process by which information is transmitted to handheld devices used by enforcement officers is free of bugs, errors and defects so as to avoid another Bates versus Post Office type scandal?
Councillor Coker, will you respond, please?
Thank you, Mr. Hill. The use of computer software across parking services and parking facilities have been commonplace now for over 25 years. Our ongoing commitment to innovation has delivered continuous improvements, where now it is much easier to access services such as applying for residence parking permits 24/7, or where in car parks you no longer need to display tickets in your car and so remove the worry of receiving a fine for not displaying a ticket correctly. As you highlight, these systems are key to many of the services we deliver, and we need to ensure that they work correctly. To that end, all these systems incorporate various health monitoring systems that continuously check and show us 24/7 that they are working correctly. Furthermore, our parking services are subject to annual auditing. As with technology, whilst we have all these checks and balances in place, there could be factors that impact service delivery. One such extreme example in 2024 involved issues with banking systems. Whilst only brief, the council was impacted along with many shops and businesses in Plymouth. However, aside of some banking payments at this time, all our core parking systems and services operated without further issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. That concludes questions from members of the public. Any questions not dealt with will have responses forwarded to them. I move to item 6, announcements. Holocaust Memorial Day. Today marks 80 years since Soviet forces liberated Auschwitz-Birkenau. Of the 1.1 million murdered there, over 90% were Jewish. The Holocaust claimed 6 million Jewish lives across 22 countries, devastating communities like Poland's Jews, whose population fell from 3 million to roughly 30,000 today. The Nazi regime also persecuted Roma, disabled people, LGBT+ individuals, black people, Jehovah's Witnesses, non-Jewish Poles, trade unionists, and others who didn't fit their ideology. Millions were affected by their systematic campaign of hatred and violence. 30 years ago, the Bosnian genocide saw over 8,000 Bosniaks executed in Srebrenica and 25,000 women, children, and elderly forcibly displaced by Bosnian Serb forces and their allies. On this Holocaust Memorial Day, we must remain vigilant against genocide denial, challenge prejudice, and educate others about these atrocities. Tomorrow's civic commemoration at 10 a.m. in the council chamber will host 130 guests. Council, may I ask you to join me in a minute of silence to remember victims of the Holocaust and subsequent genocides in Bosnia, Cambodia, Rwanda, and Darfur. Thank you. Claire Chick. Last Thursday, Claire Chick, a beloved lecturer at the University of Plymouth, had her life taken from her. Claire was an energetic and beautiful soul who touched countless lives through her work in nursing education and her international contributions to healthcare teaching across Europe, Africa, and Asia. She was a devoted mother and a cherished grandmother to 5 children who knew her as their favourite grandma. Her warmth, humour, and caring nature enriched our community. And as her family said, she was truly the life and soul of any place where she was. Please join me now in 1 minute of silence to honour Claire's memory and reflect on the profound impact she had on so many lives. Thank you. For my final announcement, I will move down to the well. Local Council Road Innovation Group. At a recent ceremony, the Local Council Road Innovation Group presented a special Lifetime Achievement Award. Councillor Mark Coker has demonstrated unwavering dedication, leadership, and a relentless commitment to improving our community's infrastructure. His innovative approaches and tireless efforts have not only enhanced the safety and efficiency of our roads, but have also set a benchmark for excellence in public service. This award is a testament to his contributions to our community and supporting others in the local government family. Congratulations, Councillor Coker. Mark, will you join me in the well for a photograph? Right, Leader and Cabinet announcement. Leader, do you have any announcements?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Yes, I do. At scrutiny last week, I talked about the importance of this year's budget, a growth budget for Plymouth that only a dedicated unitary council could deliver, a budget that not only helps some of the most vulnerable in our community, but also supports the creation of 8,000 jobs and maintains our ambition as a city with a £395 million capital programme. I was telling the Growth Board on Friday that the performance of the economic development team in raising income, grant and investment makes it easier to protect our growth agenda, as we have done over the last 15 years. I've said it before, but I think it's worth saying again, Lord Mayor, that the ED department in 2024 have delivered an amazing outputs, £28.5 million worth of earned income, without which we'd be cutting a lot deeper services than we do now. 102 million of external grant funding being attracted into the city, 280 million pounds of capital investment brought in, and 18 million foreign direct investment. We have a big year ahead with £5.5 billion investment pipeline, with major investment in the dockyard and the city centre to look forward to. And I wanted to give full council a flavour of some of the investment in our city that we can expect over the next few months. In March, we will be bringing a report to Cabinet on the redevelopment of the Civic Centre and our new partnership with Homes England to massively kickstart housing in the city centre. We will be signing contracts for our £19.5 million levelling up funding, unlocking our city centre blue-green skills hub, our latest phase of development at Ocean's Gate, and fulfilling our net zero ambitions for Mill Bay with the provision of shore power. We will be adopting our new economic strategy, the delivery plans in particular, along with our first ever port strategy and creative industries plan. We'll be completing our Tinside refurbishment and starting on site at the Mountbatten Centre redevelopment. We will start our 11th direct development at Beaumont Way, Langage. We will see the next phase of works at our Brickfields development. We will complete the CDC groundworks and start the building works. We will continue our work on the Growth Alliance Plymouth. We will be celebrating the 1 millionth visitor at the box and starting our 5th birthday party. And we will start our £25 million investment in our Freeport. Just to put this into perspective, this is £200 million of new investment into economic development projects in the coming months. Investment that will support our existing businesses, as well as creating many new jobs. And as I told the Growth Board on Friday, that's with a leader and cabinet model. Imagine, a leader and cabinet model. I wanted to give you an update on devolution and local government reorganisation. Following the EGM on the 9th of January, I have, as the saying goes, had to have many meetings to discuss both devolution and local government reorganisation. Now, in relation to devolution, members will probably be aware that Cornwall Council had a meeting of its full council on the 21st of January and resolved that it confirms its full support of the content of the letter seeking a greater autonomy and devolution for Cornwall that it sent to the Deputy Prime Minister in September, which was signed by the representatives of all political groups on their council and all 6 of the Cornwall MPs. The resolution also welcomed the efforts of Cornwall's 6 MPs in continuing to make the case for devolution to Cornwall as a standalone political unit. It also notes that the UK government had just published its English devolution white paper, which does not include specific proposals for Cornwall. It confirms that elected members will not countenance any cross border combined authority deals. Any further calls for a meaningful devolution settlement for Cornwall, which properly reflects Cornwall's national identity and the national minority status of the Cornish. And this council, that's their council in Cornwall, also writes again to the Prime Minister, Deputy Prime Minister and other relevant ministers seeking a meeting with a cross-party delegation from Cornwall Council. Basically, the debate was informed by the results from the Cornwall Chamber of Commerce poll and statement, which showed a strong preference for a Cornwall-only deal, but a mounting scepticism about the likelihood of this. Clearly, this is likely to be an issue which will be revisited by Cornwall Council after the May elections, when there could be a change in the political weather down there, I think it might be fair to say. So we'll see. But I have to say that it means it's unlikely, I would say, that there's going to be any change to the council's position, their council's position, before those May elections. So where does that leave us, I hear you cry? So we do not wish to get left behind while that is being sorted out, if it will be sorted out. And I wish them well with their campaign. But in the meantime, Plymouth does not want to be a devolution desert. Neither does Devon, neither does Torbay, neither does Exeter, neither does all parts. So I'm going to... the reason it's disappointing is because we were unable to submit an expression of interest in the priority programme. Other parts of the country have buried the hatchets and buried their differences in order to put in an expression of interest. In fact, there's been far more expressions of interest than I think the government were expecting. But what it does mean is that Plymouth, Devon, Torbay, Exeter are down the pecking order now in terms of devolution. That doesn't mean we won't be meeting with our sisters and brothers in Devon to try and get our act together. Against a backdrop of local government reorganisation. And of course, what a time to have local government reorganisation when you're trying to bring everybody together, when the proposition now is to, let's say, mix it up in Devon. As you will probably be aware, the local government reorganisation invitation is basically to reform local government for the first time since 1974, pretty much, meaning it's, to all intents and purposes, the abolition of district councils and their replacement, and actually the abolition of county councils as well, and their replacement by unitary authorities throughout England. That's the proposition on the table, and I've explained in public hearings already, but what this means for us, Plymouth, is that we want to continue as a unitary authority if we can, but we may end up being a new unitary authority. We still don't know what the outcome of that will be. So we are currently working, officers of this council, you'll be delighted to know, are working on a survival plan for Plymouth. And I do mean it in those terms. We want to continue as a unitary authority. We had 25 years of being used as a cash cow by Devon County Council when we were run by them. They took money from us, which they did not give us back. And that's why it's really important that Plymouth continues to raise revenue locally, but spend it on priorities that we are best to determine. So we'll continue to have those discussions. I think it's fair to say that the government's expectations on local areas to come to a friendly arrangement on this is, I think, stretching optimism to its breaking point. I can't, for the life of me, see too many districts wanting to work constructively on putting themselves out of business. But we may, we may see something, an outbreak of political maturity unprecedented. But we'll keep you informed. We'll talk to the political leaders of the groups in here as things emerge and things develop. We are expecting any day now a letter from the government formalising the LGR invitation, and we'll advise you of that as soon as we get it, okay? And I dare say in due course we'll be having meetings with political groups as we start to emerge with the preferred boundaries, new boundaries of Plymouth. Just to say, you know, without giving too much away at the moment, we cannot carry on as we are. Devon have put in a submission for all of Devon except Plymouth. And Plymouth on its current boundaries. And we know already from the government that Plymouth's current boundaries will give us too small a population to exist going forward. So we know some modest expansion of Plymouth's boundaries will be required in order to give us additional population and tax base to be sustainable going forward. This we know. But the details of that are a long way from being resolved yet, but they will be emerging over the summer. Lord Mayor, I think that's everything that I need to know, need to give you at this point. And obviously I'll take questions later on in the meeting if there are any.
Thank you, Councillor Evans. Do any Cabinet members have any announcements? If so, please make it known by raising your hand and I will call on you to speak. Councillor Coker.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Following on from budget scrutiny, I'm pleased to announce that following the tendering process for our non-commercial bus routes, I am able to say that all of the services that we currently operate, which were due to finish at the end of the March, will continue for a new 3-year period. There are some adjustments to service delivery, but all routes remain, including an increase in the service of the 200 park and ride to every 15 minutes. The number 19, which was cut by the last administration, will be reintroduced to serve Plymstock Broadway and Plimpton Ridgeway. It will run approximately every 75 minutes from 9:30 in the morning till 5. This has been initially funded for a 12-month kickstart period. The number 4 will also be extended beyond Plymstock Broadway to serve Plymstock, the Ridgeway via Sherford and Sandy Road, providing new links for workers at Langage and for pupils travelling to and from school. Lord Mayor, a lot has been said about buses recently and various claims made, but the fact of the matter is that this Labour Council, working with the Labour government, has given us the funding to do this. I want to pay tribute to my public transport team, my bus champion, Councillor Kevin Sproston, and my walking and cycling champion, Councillor John Stevens, who have worked tirelessly with me to make this happen. I hope that the passengers in this area will use this facility and that this Labour administration will continue to grow the number of people travelling on our public transport. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Coker. Councillor Lang.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I've got a number of announcements, so with your permission, I'll remain seated. So we're hosting our second Foster for Plymouth Foster Carer Summit on the 7th of February with the generous support of Dartmoor Zoo, who are providing a fantastic venue for us to have some of our very creative discussions. The summit will enable foster carers to share their experiences of fostering directly with the social work teams, senior leaders, partners, elected members and organisations such as Dartmoor Zoo. It's very, very generous of them to provide us with that venue. And together we'll review the support available and co-design the 2025-2026 support and retention offer to ensure we keep doing the things that make the biggest difference, and that we can stop doing the things that make no impact or make life difficult for our foster carers, and that we explore anything we can do differently or better to support our foster carers and the children that they look after. Our first summit was a real success and shaped our existing offer, so I have high hopes for the second one. We've agreed a high support scheme for our for Plymouth foster carers who are considering supporting a child in care back into a family home from a residential setting. I've mentioned in a number of arenas that we have a number of young people who are in residential placements who could step down to a fostering home if we have the foster carers to provide them. So we're using this to support some foster carers to enable them to care for children who are stepping out of residential care, and we'll be inviting our wider fostering community to share their views on the new scheme, along with a new emergency foster care offer at the Fostering Summit. As part of our commitment to ensuring that as many of our children and our care as possible are supported to live in family homes, we've developed our Family Homes for Plymouth Children programme to include a sixth very important priority: improved support for special guardians and kinship carers. And this will further develop the work of the new SGO support team and the offer that Plymouth City Council make to support special guardians, kinship carers and the children that they care for. I also want to offer congratulations to retired Foster for Plymouth foster carers Dave and Colleen Healy. They received British Empire medals in the King's New Year's Honours List in recognition of their incredible work and dedication to fostering. Dave and Colleen fostered for us between 2005 and 2020, welcoming 45 different children into their home during this time. Dave was also a member of our corporate parenting board for a number of years, where he enjoyed representing the voices of his fellow foster carers. We've also had an offer accepted on a property for our first children's home, and we're hopeful that we'll be opening that home for more children to remain in Plymouth later this year. I also wanted to talk a little bit about the Devonport 200 event, changing tack, we're going to talk about the box now, which took place on the 11th of January. It was an amazing day, and we recorded 1,491 visits on the Saturday. And many of the visitors were Plymouth residents who'd actually never been to the box before, but wanted to come to talk about and celebrate Devonport. That was a really brilliant event. On the 8th, our new exhibition by John Lyons, Carnivalesque, it's easy for me to say, opens. And there is also a fascinating exhibition which has just opened about perhaps some unexpected connections to Windrush in the far southwest. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Dan.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I just thought I'd quickly announce, because I know that a couple of councillors have asked if we're going to get some fit and fed funding for next year. We are going to get it. We haven't got the final amount. It was confirmed last week. But I just thought I'd be a bit cheeky and just remind you what the money delivered last year. The Active Lifestyle team at Plymouth Active Leisure coordinated 85 holiday clubs across the city, providing over 21,000 free places for benefit-related school meals children aged between 5 and 16 years of age. We worked with 52 different delivery partners. And I think the important thing here is that these fit and fed holiday clubs are so important because they allow access for families with perhaps children who have got special educational needs or other disabilities to be able to have fun during the school holidays and also to be able to fed properly. And if you remember also, we also have the Fit and Fed roadshows, which goes around to all the 5 parks across the city and give over, 10,000 free lunches to families during the summer holidays. So I don't know the final amount. We're waiting to have it confirmed. But the full Fit and Fed programme for the Easter holidays will be out sort of around the middle of February. So families will be able to start booking for activities during the school holidays. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Dan. Are there any other Cabinet members or chairs of committees that have any announcements? If so, please raise your hand. No? Move on to item 7, council tax base setting 25-26 and council tax support scheme 25-26. Councillor Lowry, would you like to introduce the report?
Good afternoon, Lord Mayor, and yes, thank you very much. I would like to introduce the report. Over the last 20 years, I've had the pleasure of doing this on and off. It hasn't changed an awful lot, you'll be pleased to know. It's a statutory requirement for us to come before you in January of each year to set out the council tax base for the forthcoming financial year and to annually review the council tax support scheme. The option to make any amendments to the council tax support scheme requires a public consultation, and for 2025/26 there are no government amendments, and therefore it's considered appropriate to carry on with the scheme as it currently is. Ahead of each year we must calculate the number of Band D properties, and this forms the basis of the council tax setting process. The council tax base assumption includes for the growth and the demand of our council tax support scheme, and this is set out in the papers before you. Just for your own reference, the council tax setting base for this financial year will be some 76,000 properties approximately. In addition to that, the level of council tax subsequently set must be determined using the council tax base figure and consider a collection rate. The collection rate for this year will be retained at some 97.5%, which is prudent given our recent collection levels. The council tax calculation also includes assumptions for the financial impact as a consequence of the council tax support scheme, and it's worth noting that just under 20% of all households in Plymouth are now in receipt of this support, with an income set aside for 25-26 of some £22.145 million. The calculations are set out in Appendix A of the report before you, Lord Mayor. I'd like to thank Councillor Penbervy for approving the report in my absence last week, and additionally he has direct responsibility for the council tax support scheme and the exceptional hardship scheme, which I'm sure he will comment on along with myself, Lord Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder for the report? Thank you. Would you like to speak now or reserve your right?
I'll reserve my right, Lord Mayor.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who wishes to speak? No? Well, in that case, Councillor Pemberley.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I just wanted to remind members that the council tax support scheme is not a benefit we pay, it's a discount we give. And that's quite an important thing, because what we want to do with this is ensure that those of working age in receipt of council tax support take some responsibility for paying council tax. Obviously, our intention is to support them with all of our partners to find jobs that pay better, or more work, in order that people are less dependent on benefits and are able to do the work that they need to support and sustain their families, which is why we've brought the whole process of building bridges to opportunity to the fore. But it is there, and it is a support. So for those of working age, up to 80% of their council tax can be paid, and for those of working age, it's about 20% of working age people in the city in receipt of this. In fact, just over half of our council tax support scheme goes to support people of working age, and less than half goes to eligible pensioners, such as war widows and others. Those are set by government and are set at 100%. We have no say in that, and I hasten to say that this is a fund that we fund locally as a council tax discount, whether it be up to 80% or at 100%. The government gives us no support towards any of it. So this is us making contribution towards the people of Plymouth. It's the right thing to do. We all know that there is a low-wage economy in Plymouth. We all know that there are families that are struggling. We all know that there are children growing up in both absolute and low income in the city. And we all know that we as a council want to do everything we can to support them. This year, we're making no amendments to the council tax support scheme. In recent years, we've done amendments in line with DWP changes. There haven't been any this year. and we do want to review. However, this year in Plymouth, there's been a major migration from legacy benefits to universal credit. So with a lot of changes going on, we didn't want to change yet another scheme for those people in receipt of benefits. So over the next year, we will be reviewing our council tax support scheme to see whether it is still fit for purpose. All our indicators show it is, but whether there are any tweaks we can make to make it more effective, especially for those most vulnerable in the city. That will be subject to full public consultation and pre-decision scrutiny in line with legislation. But this is all part of the technicalities that we go through each year, and I'm happy to second this motion, Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Pemberley. Right, I have debate and any amendments. Does anybody wish to speak? Right, Councillor Lowry, would you like to sum up, please?
Very briefly, Lord Mayor, I'd just like to remind Council that included within this on page 22 in the appendix, there's now the inclusion of the second homes. And you'll recall that this council made a decision to allocate some £200,000 towards ensuring that we can recruit in-house Plymouth City Council foster carers. And Councillor Lang referred to the meetings that she's got next week on this subject matter. So I just wanted to assure Council that the decision that Council did make itself some time ago is reflected in the council tax setting base. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. We will now move to the vote. Please use your unit and press green for favour, red for against, and amber to abstain. Thank you. Motion is carried. Thank you. Move on to pay policy statement 25 to 26. Councillor Dan, would you like to introduce the report?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. This is a statement that comes to Council every year. It seeks to approve the Council's pay policy statement for the year 25-26. The Localism Act of 2011 requires every council to prepare a pay statement by the 31st of March each year for the following financial year. This is approved by the City Council. It sets out information about remuneration and council policies for chief officers, which under this definition is inclusive of the head of the paid service, and also compares the highest paid employee with the lowest paid employees. To address low pay, the Council introduced the principles of the foundation living wage by adding a discretionary non-contractual market supplement back in 2014. The Council will continue to pay this foundation living wage at the increased rate of £12.60 per hour from the 1st of April 2025, which is a top-up of 34p per hour for the NJC lowest paid employees on grade A, who currently have an hourly rate of £12.26. Negotiations for next year, the 2025 National Pay Local Government Pay Award, have not yet commenced, but once agreed, the top-up will be adjusted. I therefore propose that this Council approves this pay policy statement for 2025-26. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dan. Do I have a seconder for the report? Councillor Lang. Would you like to speak now or reserve your right?
I'm happy to second, and I'll reserve my right to speak, Lord Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak? Right, Councillor Dan, would you like to speak?
Councillor Lang, because you reserved
Oh, I beg your pardon. You reserved your right, Councillor Lang. Could you speak now?
I don't have anything further to add. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Right. In that case, Councillor Dan, would you like to sum up?
I just will add one thing, because I think as it's comparing the highest paid with the lowest paid, I think I would like to just show where the council has moved. From 2012, the ratio was 1 to 14. As of the 1st of April in 2025, the ratio is 1 to 7.82. So you can see that as a council, we have worked really hard to make sure that we look after some of our employees who are on the lower salary band. And that's all I have to say. So thank you very much. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Dam. We will move to the vote now. Please vote using the buttons on your unit. Green for favour, red against, and amber to abstain. The motion is therefore carried. I move to item 9, the committee calendar 25 to 26. Councillor Evans, would you like to introduce the report?
Thank you very much indeed, Lord Mayor. This is to give indicative committee dates for the forthcoming municipal year. The dates have been carefully chosen to avoid conflicts. They'll retain the flexibility, obviously, once we get going, but it is, as usual, to avoid conference season, to make sure all the party conferences are included. And of course, that'll be particularly interesting for Councillor Wood, because he's probably due to switch parties this year, so given his previous record. So you can just rest assured that there's plenty of freedom and flexibility in these committee dates, which I commend to you.
Do I have a seconder for the report? Councillor Absnell. Would you like to speak now, or would you like to reserve your right?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I'll speak now. It's always interesting to have this for those of us that take a good interest, and particularly, I think, group secretaries and officials, so that we can plan our group meetings for the coming year. So I appreciate this. I really appreciate the fact that the holidays season, as well as everything else, are in a different colour, so it saves us having to look through calendars. Lord Mayor, this comes out every year about this time, and we thank the committee clerks and governance unit for doing this for us. It saves us a lot of time and worry, and with no elections this year, for us at least, we know the year is going to smoothly go from one to the next. And I understand there will be an update as to the bit of May that we deal with within this civic year, so that we can all make sure that we know when we call our AGMs for our groups for next year, which seems a long time away, but will soon come. So, Lord Mayor, yes, I'm happy to second this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Right, does anyone else wish to speak? I have Councillor Nicholson here.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Good afternoon, members. Thank you, Councillor Evans, for presenting the paper as is the normal custom. Can I just implore, though, when we get nearer the AGM of the Council, would there be a possibility of the Labour group publishing an updated timetable? In essence, members of the Council, principally opposition members, will put their preferences in for committees based on the likely date and time that committees historically meet. The problem is, particularly for those of us who've got other responsibilities of working and other commitments, the committee chair's decision to change dates and times does have an impact. And I would hope through you, Lord Mayor, that members opposite would bear that in mind when members unilaterally, for their own benefit, and quite justifiable, but not realising the impact it has on other members of the committee. So would it be in order through you, Lord Mayor, if the leader could perhaps before the AGM publish an updated day of the week and time that meetings are likely to take place, so members can make an informed judgment and not then mess around in their ability to attend meetings. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Nicholson. Councillor Evans, would you like to sum up?
I think that's a very good suggestion, and we'll take that on board. I think there is something that perhaps needs to be done now, which is, and I still don't really understand why we do it on an annual cycle anyway. It could be a longer period to give people have got all sorts of shift patterns and periods away from Plymouth for various reasons. So I think we will have a talk about this. And I think another thing we need to talk about, it may be my advance in years, but councillors seem to be getting younger these days. And that means, I guess, a number of councillors are in work. A lot more of the council are in work than used to be the case. And it has been the practice here for many years to be basically most meetings start at 2 o'clock. So I think it might be time if we had a conversation about that. There are implications for staffing and all sorts of things, but I think it's probably time that the council sat down and had a chat about that. Perhaps we could ask the A&G panel, Sarah, if that could be a piece of work that you folks have a look at and start working across the council to see if there are optimum times. It may not be that somebody somewhere will have a problem with whatever time we pick, but it's clear we haven't reviewed this as a council for many years, and it might be time to do so.
Thank you, Councillor. We can move to the vote now. Please vote using the buttons on your unit: green for favour, red against, and amber to abstain. The motion is passed. Right, we have two motions coming up, and it has been suggested to me that we have the first one now and then have a tea break and come back. Is that generally approved? Right, no objections anyway. The first one is strengthening measures to combat youth vaping. Councillor Steele, would you like to promote your motion?
Thank you, my Lord Mayor. So this motion is about a serious issue that is impacting the health and well-being of Plymouth's young people. So only recently, a Devon head teacher, Matthew Shanks, raised his concerns with MPs about the alarming rise of young people vaping. So we know that at least 1 in 10 children and young people use vapes in Plymouth, and frankly, it's probably higher. And if we don't act, that number is going to rise even further. So we do not know the long-term impact that vaping has on children's cognitive and physical development. This is what the Plymouth City Council's public health team were telling me. So there are some studies that show vaping damages young people's lungs as much as smoking. And medical researchers have found that evidence vaping increases the risks of cancer and may even damage the brain and vital organs, as they can contain trace toxic metals like lead and uranium. So make no mistake, vapes play an important role in helping adults quit smoking. But do we really want Plymouth's young people getting hooked on vapes? So that's why I welcome our Labour government's tobacco and vapes bill. It can't come soon enough. It's world-leading legislation, and that's not me saying it. That's the Special Advisor on Tobacco at the Royal College of Physicians saying it. So this government has an ambitious plan for a smoke-free generation by banning the sale of tobacco to anyone born after January 2009 and introducing tough new restrictions to reduce the appeal of vaping to young people. Once again, it's a Labour government leading the way to protect our health and creating a path for other countries to follow. Let's not forget, It was Labour that introduced the ban on smoking in public spaces and workplaces in 2007, and it was Labour's Health Act in 2009 that required tobacco products to be removed from shop floors. Now, I've heard hand-wringing and some defeatism from some people on this issue, saying young people always find a way to get their hands on these things, whether they're legal or not, and this won't make a difference. But I wholeheartedly disagree. We've seen the impact Labour's regulations on smoking has had to reduce smoking. So in 1990, there was around 1/3 of 16 to 24-year-olds smoked. As of 2023, that figure was down to 13%. So if we know these regulations work with cigarettes, why can't they work for vapes too? So our council's public health team have made great progress working with local schools, citywide partners, and others to tackle harmful vaping and reduce school exclusions due to vaping. We should all be proud of Plymouth's innovative work. But my message is clear. We don't have to wait for this new bill to come forward to take action locally. That's why I'm calling on all local businesses to act now to voluntarily end the sale of vapes on shop floors in Plymouth. This would keep vapes behind the counter like we've seen with cigarettes for years. By keeping vape products out of sight and out of the hands of young people, we can stop them getting hooked on nicotine and vaping. I hope all councillors will join me in sending an unmistakable message that Plymouth continues to be at the forefront of the fight to protect young people's health. Thank you, my Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Aspinall, I understand you will second the motion?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I'll speak now.
Would you like to speak now?
Yes, please.
Speak right.
I'm pleased to second this motion from Councillor Steele. Council is aware that we've been supporting the proactive work being undertaken by our public health team that has strengthened through the recommendations of the vaping workshop that was held last year. I was really impressed with the young people that took part in that and how they were able to show us oldies how they got the things, how they utilised them, and how their pocket money could afford it. We have always been concerned that young people vaped and the unknown consequences that this has had, and for the future. We don't know yet, as Councillor Steele says, what that damage can do. Dave Swartz has been doing a great job through his links with schools to support their actions to make sure the facts are shared with young people, and also advising on how schools can be supported to support their students. It's very important that whatever measures are included in the Tobacco and Vaping Bill 2024, that vaping is a method for ageing people to stop smoking. That must always be protected. However, I agree that there should be a limited number of flavours available to be used for this purpose. The long list of flavours, along with their colourful packaging, appears to be aimed at young people and enticing them to try them. I agree that plain packaging could be part of our ask of the Parliamentary Under-Secretary. As Councillor Steele says, it's important we make our voices heard during this consultation stage, and that we inform government, that we are informing government's final plans. Councillor Steele is also correct when he states his concern for advertising and the ease of availability of the product. I hope that within the legislation there will be strict regards on online sales as well, and the steep penalties put in place for underage sales of vaping products. This bill that will be going through Parliament during the coming months will have many implications, not just for our citizens, but for the work of our council officers within the public health and the trading standards teams. And the enforcement team, which Councillor Hayden leads, I look forward to working with her to get the action plan together, and so we will be able to bring to council more details as the final bill is available. I will be requesting updates from our public health team as this proceeds through Parliament. As Chair of the Health and Wellbeing Board, I agree we need to review the position statements on vaping, particularly in regard of children, and will bring that recommendation to our meeting later on this week. This motion clearly shows us just what a multifaceted approach we will be required to take once this lifetime bill goes through, and how the changes that will bring to our citizens. We can't afford to botch it. I ask you to support the motion.
Thank you, Councillor. Does anyone else wish to speak? No? So, Councillor Steele, would you like to sum up, please?
I'd just like to thank Councillor Aspinall for her support on this motion, and also for all the work that the public health team in Plymouth City Council provided to draft this motion. It was really important work, and they were really engaged on it. And like I say, this is about us celebrating the work a Labour government is doing to bring about world-leading legislation, and the role that we as local councils can play in making sure that we're playing our part in protecting young people's health, and making sure that the regulations that they're bringing forward can actually be implemented and make an impact on people's lives. So I just want to repeat my encouragement to all councillors to support this motion to show that we are unanimous in wanting to make sure that we don't have young people in Plymouth addicted to nicotine. Thank you, my Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Steele. We'll move to the vote now. Please vote using the buttons on your unit: green for favour, red against, and amber to abstain. Thank you. The motion is carried. Now, it's been put to me that we got through that motion very quickly, and I've put it to you. Would you like to carry on to the end, straight ahead, or would you like to take a break? The decision is yours. Carry on. Right, away we go. Next motion is on note is to call for auto-enrolment for free school meals. Councillor Lawson, would you like to propose your motion?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. My Lord Mayor, I call for the auto-enrolment for free school meals. 16.3% of Plymouth children live in poverty. Plymouth City Council has a clear ambition to tackle poverty in the city. This is evident in the Plymouth City Council's Child Poverty Action Plan, the commitments in the Plymouth Plan, and other core council strategies, along with the work of the Child Poverty Committee. Nationally, many pupils are missing out on free school meals. The Child Poverty Committee was shocked to hear that in Plymouth, it is estimated that there are approximately 1,600 households with 2,600 children who are eligible for free school meals, but not enrolled to receive it. As well as missing out on a free nutritional hot lunch every school day, these families will also be missing out on additional support available throughout the school holidays. There is a simple fix to this: to move to auto-enrolment where families meet the criteria. Auto-enrolment will address the long-standing issue where many families who would qualify for free school meals never apply. Some of this may be attributable to the lack of awareness, language and literacy issues, the complexity of the process, and due to the stigma and embarrassment around disclosing financial details. By removing these barriers, eligible children will benefit automatically, and families would also have the option to opt out if they wish to do so. Auto-enrolment not only has the potential to address child hunger, but it has additional benefits. Schools receive pupil premium grants for every child claiming free school meals, providing schools with extra funding to support disadvantaged children further. Primary schools would receive an additional £1,455 per pupil, and secondary schools would receive £1,035 per pupil. Plymouth's education system is missing out in the region of £2.5 million in additional funding with pupil premium. There has been a lot of research with regards to the effects of a balanced diet on children's well-being and development, Proper nutrition enhances concentration and learning, enabling children to reach their full potential in an educational setting. Providing a meal would offer some financial relief for families during the ongoing cost of living crisis. And in areas where auto-enrolment to free school meals have been piloted, it is estimated that the savings to families are in the region of £400 to £500 in lunch costs. I can recall vividly an episode from Channel 4 Dispatches called Growing Up Poor, Britain's Breadline Kids. It was one of the many things that happened in December 2019 that made me become more politically active. The haunting image of a young boy called Cameron with his shoulders hunched saying, "We try not to eat a lot in one day, even though most of us are really hungry. We have to be careful with our food." Cameron, Caitlin and Casey, his sisters, explained to the camera how they rely on near expiry date food from a charity food club to get by. They talk about their parents worrying about money. The older sister explains why she wants people with more money to understand what it's like to have little money. As in her words, we are all equal. The images of that little family are imprinted in my memory and remain with me. As elected members of the council, it is our duty to make a difference to the community in which we serve. Sometimes the smallest changes we make here can have a significant impact on the 16.3% of children living in poverty in Plymouth. Auto-enrolment has already been piloted and introduced successfully by some councils in the country. Free school meals provide a nutritional safety net for families experiencing food insecurity. Auto-enrolment for free school meals ensures that no child experiences hunger at school. Auto-enrolment would be a significant move by the council to help combat child poverty in Plymouth. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Bannerman, I understand you would like to second the motion?
Yes.
Would you like to speak now or reserve your right?
Please, may I speak now?
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Lord Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Lawson. I became a councillor because I wanted to make a difference, because I wanted to advocate for change and make Plymouth a better place for everyone who lives here. I could not be prouder that this, my maiden speech, should be one that addresses child poverty and proposes meaningful change to young lives that will support families on low incomes, that will make real and lasting, potentially even life-changing differences for children, that will support most, and if not all, Plymouth schools through additional pupil premiums. Not only that, this is a motion that is absolutely achievable. We've heard from Councillor Lawson in her excellent speech that there are already local authorities piling automatic opt-ins, and as well as local government action, there is action being taken on a national level. The government has already announced an extension to free breakfast clubs with early adopter schemes starting the summer term. This is amazing news and will mean that we are already working towards the mission to break down barriers to opportunities. Peter Lamb, Labour MP, has introduced a private members bill which is due for its second reading in March to adopt this as a national scheme. And Bridget Phillipson, Secretary of State, is reviewing education provisions. So this is absolutely the right time for Plymouth City Council to pass this motion, to stand up and stand together for our children, our grandchildren and our schools. This isn't rocket science, it's happening elsewhere and it can happen here. Let's pass this motion unanimously. Let's send a clear message to government, to our schools and our hard-working local families, and most of all to our next generation. Let's show them that we care. Let's scrap that additional paperwork. Let's scrap the added burden to families of opting in. Let's scrap the stigma. Let's make it easy and let's just make it fair. I urge you all to vote yes, to vote for our children and to vote for their future. Thank you.
Congratulations, Councillor Lane, maiden speech. Right, now I have a list of other people. Councillor Nicholson, I think you would.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Well, I'm delighted to rise and congratulate both Councillor Lawson and Councillor Bannerman on their contributions. This is one of the motions that really, it's all about common sense, isn't it? It's all about, as you rightly say, councillors, about inclusion and doing the right thing for our young people, not only in Plymouth, but really throughout the country. So I'm delighted to say that I'll be supporting the motion. I hope the calls that you've made across the chamber that we can be united on this issue. It can make sense to create barriers for young people to be able to have a healthy meal. And we all know how important it is to feed our engines, you need proper fuel. And therefore, a school meal for those that can't afford to buy their own food is an important contribution to their attaining educational standards and for their health and well-being. So it makes absolute sense that we try and persuade the government that we can bring about auto-enrolment. The problem with democracy and the problem with government is all about bureaucracy. And I'm sure all members in the council, you know, over the time that you've been councillors, have seen unnecessary bureaucracy, and we should use every opportunity to cut down and to fight bureaucracy where it's not necessary. And if there's an alternative way of doing things more easily and more inclusively, then we should be promoting that at every opportunity. So I congratulate both members for bringing this motion. I'll be delighted to be supporting their proposition. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Bridgman.
Thank you, my Lord Mayor. Patrick's actually stolen my thunder. I was going to say exactly the same thing, because it actually well done to Councillors Lawson and Bannerman, because this actually makes absolute perfect sense. So I'm actually surprised that we haven't done this before, so well done for bringing it here. I know it's really difficult when you made a speech, but you were very eloquent, very good, so thank you very much. Thank you. I will be supporting.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Wood.
Thank you, my Lord Mayor. Congratulations, Councillor Bannerman, on your maiden speech on such a worthy cause. I'm very happy to support this. I fully support auto-enrolment. Personally, I would go one step further. I think schools should have free school meals universally. I think that would remove any question of barrier, stigma. When I was at school, you used to have a card. So one set of children had one card that was pink, another was green, so you'd know who had free school meals. And I still know the name of the girl in my class who had free school meals. That's how much it can stick with you. I know things have moved on. You now have fingerprints and such, so that is removed. But I just think it's a wonderful thing to do, have auto-enrolment. I personally would go one step further, but I'm more than happy to support this. Well done.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Steele.
Thank you, my Lord Mayor. I think it's brilliant when we've got this kind of cross-party support where we can show, you know, at the end of the day, it's about those young people, 2,600 children in Plymouth who are not able to get a free school meal, who are eligible for it. And I think it really shows the role of us in local government. You know, the work that we do at the coalface, you've heard a lot from what I like to call the Plymstop posse, around buses, vaping, auto-enrolment. It's that role we have as local councillors being in our community to understand how does national policy actually look like in practice on the ground. And this is our important role to make national policies work better for our local communities. So I think this is a really great initiative. And I also want to congratulate Councillor Bannerman on her maiden speech. And I just think this is a really good, another good example of how we in local government can make both national and local policies work better for our residents and not look at it through, you know, political point scoring and actually work together in the interest of everybody. Thank you, my Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Steele. Councillor Lang.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Everybody's more or less said what I was going to say. I think this is the very definition of a no-brainer. Over the years, we've wrestled and wrangled and tried to work out a way to make this happen. And it seemed a very tough nut to crack, but I think auto-enrolment is the nutcracker that we need. And I'm very, very grateful to Councillor Lawson and Councillor Bannerman for bringing this motion here today. And again, I would like to add my congratulations to Councillor Bannerman on her first speech in this chamber. And she can go home satisfied tonight that she has done something very significant to support the young people in Plymouth, their families, their carers, and also the schools in the city who will benefit greatly from the extra pupil premium funding. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Lang. Councillor Watkins.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. As Councillor Wood, I would like to take this matter a stage further. It's my opinion that no child should be means tested on their parents' income for the provision of essential nutrition in the school. Neither should parents be judged by their parenting skills on their income. Some parents on low income will provide nutritious meals for their children, even if it means they'll go without themselves. Others who can afford to pay for their children's nutrition will not do so for reasons best known to themselves. Sweden, Finland and Estonia have provided free school meals for all children for many years. The Norwegian Parliament voted in November 2024 to provide free school lunches for all primary school children from 2026. India provides free school meals to children until they reach the age of 14. Some African countries, such as Kenya, are providing free school meals for all. I understand the USA provided free school lunches during COVID, and some states are continuing the policy. It's a long time since I was at school. I've attended state schools and a private school. At private school, which was mostly comprised of day pupils, and I was a boarder, lunch was compulsory. It was usually hot. And it was a fairly formal affair, with a teacher or a prefect presiding over a table of 6 or 7. We had a scheme for some of us moving on a different table on a weekly basis. This helped enormously with social cohesion and integration. I cannot recall anyone having a severe eating disorder. Any issue was usually addressed by the head of the table with, "Eat up, or no one will have any pudding." Times have moved on, and more children suffer from eating disorders, allergies, and food intolerances. With our increasing diverse society, some children will be unable to eat certain foods, or it will have to be cooked in a certain way for religious reasons. If children eat a meal together, they can discuss their differences and integrate. No child should be deprived of a nutritious meal because a parent or carer cannot or will not complete a form for whatever reason. However, every parent must be consulted and will have to be given the opportunity to opt out or disclose the allergies, intolerances, or restricted foods. The consultation itself may draw attention to the fact that the child is having a free school meal. I will certainly support this motion on the basis that some children are likely to benefit, but I would like to take it a lot further forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Penberthy.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. It'll come as no surprise to people in the chamber that I fully support this motion. Some members who've been here a while will know that I have a long-held interest in what we do to tackle child poverty in the city, and those on our cross-party cabinet advisory group, which I worked to help set up with members of the Conservative group back in 2012, know that free school meals has been something that we've been talking about since that very time. I'd like to thank Councillors Lawson and Bannerman for bringing this motion. It's actually really important. And I'd like to congratulate Councillor Bannerman on an excellent maiden speech. I'd also like to thank both of them for the real impact and engagement they're having on the cross-party Cabinet Advisory Committee on child poverty. Having listened to the speeches from the other side, I look forward to hearing your National Front Bench announce your new policy of free school meals for all and how your party will fund it. Especially considering the previous government having to be embarrassed into providing free school meal provision during school holidays by Marcus Rashford. So you could face an uphill battle. You have my full support in winning it. Lord Mayor, I would like to beg your indulgence to take this opportunity to announce that Councillor Maria Lawson will be supporting me as the Council's new Building Bridges to Opportunity champion. The Building Bridges to Opportunity programme aims to embed work to tackle poverty and the causes of poverty in the city plans and strategies to ensure that Plymouth is a place where people don't fall into poverty, experience less harm from poverty if they are in it, and can be assisted to lift themselves out of poverty. The programme builds on the partnership work to support residents during the cost of living crisis, existing work across the city, not only from within the council, on tackling child poverty, and a range of partnership work we are already engaged with as a council on things like the economic strategy, the skills strategy, Thrive, Plan for Homes, all as part of the Plymouth Plan where we make explicit reference to tackling poverty. The wide focus of this work acknowledges that poverty impacts residents of all ages and that there are a range of actions that we can take locally to combat poverty and minimise the impact this has on children, whilst we know that a lot of the drivers are beyond the council's control. Lord Mayor, I'm also pleased to inform you that at the last meeting of the Cross-Party Cabinet Advisory Group on Child Poverty, Councillor Lawson was appointed as its Vice Chair. So she'll be able to use her influence to work well to support the council as we do this really important work. That meeting also asked Councillors Lawson and Bannerman to bring this motion, and I'd like to thank Council for the clear support that is being given to it. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Pushnak.
Thank you, my Lord Mayor. Some 50 years ago, I was sitting in a primary school, and I enjoyed free school meals. But free school meals did not just mean a provision of the food for my stomach, because my family, father and mother that worked, they were working on a minimum wage. And they haven't been able to provide a means for me to be able to participate in the school meals as the rest of them. But school made it possible for me to do it. And that had a great impact on me, emotionally, spiritually, and physically. I was not being looked as a person sitting somewhere in a corner hiding because I haven't been able to pay for my school meals. I was not looked upon as somebody second class, and I was looked upon, because of the school provision, as someone equal. The children are very, very critical, and they will pick up on the little things and use that as a tool to bully. And I welcome Councillor Watkins' comments, and I personally will support wholeheartedly this motion because it's very close to me, because it made big, big difference in my life. And I strongly believe that every child, not in our city, but also countrywide, should have free meals across the board. And that will make them feel proud citizens, feel proud as individuals, feel honored and loved. And I will support this motion, as I said again. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Lawson, would you like to sum up, please?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I'd like to thank Councillor Bannerman for her excellent maiden speech and sharing in the enthusiasm with us. It was truly heartfelt. Thank you. The Child Poverty Committee are committed to doing all we can to make a difference to the 16.3% of children living in poverty in the city of Plymouth. We are fortunate that we have a passionate chair, and I'd like to thank personally Chris for all his support, encouragement and enthusiasm. I'd also like to support Ruth Harrell from the Public Health Department, who helped with the motion. And I know Councillor Creswell has offered some advice and guidance and shares the passion as well. As we have already discussed, auto-enrolment will ensure that children who are in receipt of free school meals will receive at least one hot meal a day. And that can support their parents financially and help the children focus on school. For the children like Cameron and his sisters in Plymouth, I thank you all for offering your support with this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. We will move to the vote now. Please vote using the buttons of your unit: green for favour, red against, and amber to abstain. Thank you. Thank you. That motion is carried. Move on to questions by councillors. Can I invite members to ask any questions of the leader, cabinet members or committee chairs? Please indicate how you would like to speak by raising your hand and you'll be called to speak. Please note there's up to 45 minutes for this question and answer session. Questions should be no more than 1 minute long and answers no more than 2 minutes. Members may well ask one supplementary question, not a statement, which must be related to the original question they asked. The same time restrictions apply.
I may not have pressed the button on the last. I think I pressed it, but I'm not sure if it registered my vote on the last motion. Sorry.
I'll have a look at the voting record after, Santa. Councillor Dan.
Sorry, Lord Mayor. I wasn't. Oh, are you going to? I was just going to say, do you think we could possibly have a comfort break? When we said we were going through, I was under the impression that we might be doing the two motions on notice and then having a quick break. There's a few of us who just need to exit the room for a little while.
Well, yes, members want to come for a break, you're fine. How about, can you come back at 4, or would you like longer? Right. Go for 15 minutes.
Through you, Lord Mayor, just to understand, are members wishing to go for tea for half an hour?
Well, that's what I didn't think it was. Can we choose at 20 minutes then? Would that? Right. Back at 4:15. So, welcome back, everyone. We are now to item 11, questions by councillors. And I have some here already. Councillor Matt Smith.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Just a question for Councillor Dan. Just wondering if you could give us an update on the industrial action that was taken by care workers in the city recently, please.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Thank you, Lord Mayor. Yes, positive. We've reached a resolution with the Unite Union to stop the industrial action within our Independence at Home team. The action was due to historical working arrangements which were stopped in May 2024. During this period, though, of industrial action, I do want to say that essential services were maintained and we were working with our NHS and social care partners to make sure that any impact on members of the public was kept to an absolute minimum. We are pleased to have reached a really positive resolution to the industrial action, and the service continues to provide high quality reablement support to vulnerable adults with everyone back at work. So thank you very much.
Councillor Bannerman.
Thank you, my Lord Mayor. My question's for Councillor Mary Aspinall, Cabinet Member for Health and Adult Social Care. I'm sure you're all aware how important oral health is to an individual's overall health and well-being, and the challenges many residents in Plymouth face attempting to see a dentist. Please can I ask you, as the chair of the Dental Task Force, for an update locally on dentistry?
Thank you, Councillor Bannerman. The Dental Task Force meets again on the 7th of February, so I will make sure that a resume of where we've got comes out clearly to Council. But in fact, there were 3 aims that we started off with, and one of those aims are going to come to fruition quite soon, in the fact that there will be announcement about the city centre dental practice that is going to be announced, and I understand that will probably be later on this week. So there's some good news coming there. There was another one that dealt with getting more schools involved with the toothbrush scheme. And I'm trying to remember what it's called. It's just completely gone from my head there at the moment. But that's expanding, and in fact Councillor Creswell and myself are going to be sending a letter out to encourage more schools to take part. I think it's actually called Open Wide, Step Inside, isn't it? Yes, all about Geoffrey the Giant that lives in Speaton's Tower. So it's good. And then the last one we're still working on. We're not giving up, but it's basically how are we going to encourage more dentists into Plymouth? How are we going to make sure that they know they're welcome? And that's more difficult because obviously that needs government support for that. And one of those things that I personally think we need to be doing is to be pushing on the dental contract because that at the moment appears to be something that dissuades dentists from joining the NHS scheme. Whereas we all know, working in the NHS, the benefits of it for people are much better as an employer. So we're going to work on that, carry on with that. But we will update you once we've got firm way forward, because I think now we have to review what our task force was doing and see how we need to regenerate it. But thank you for asking the question.
Thank you, my Lord Mayor. This is a question for Councillor Mark Coker. On behalf of all the people of Plympton, may I thank Councillor Coker for listening to them and their councillors for announcing the introduction of a new bus service from Plympton to Plymstock, serving the new crematorium. As this service is only initially for 1 year, will Councillor Coker please consider promoting this new bus service by including details by way of a leaflet with independent council tax bills? This is to residents of Plympton and Plymstock, as many of our residents are older residents and do not have access to the internet and hence haven't heard about the new service, which they've been asking for. But thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Councillor Nicholson for that. I'm glad that as Plimpton councillors you welcome the move that we've done. It's been long, hard, but it hopefully will be successful. What I will talk to Councillor Lowry, who does the council tax sending out of bills, but what I've also got planned, as we did with the other new routes and the extended routes, councillors will be given a timetable and a use it or lose it leaflet. And then that would be up to you. If you tell me how many thousands you'd like printed for you to go out and talk to residents, I'm really happy to provide that. Thank you.
Thank you. That would be very interesting and very good. Thank you.
Right, next, Councillor Patrick Nicholson, please.
Thank you, my Lord Mayor. It's a question for Councillor Evans as the Cabinet Member for Economic Development. Councillor Evans, you mentioned in your announcements today further expansion of employment uses at Langage, which are very welcomed indeed. Would you be prepared to meet myself and other Plimpton councillors in relation to the growing concerns at Deep Lane Junction, the inability to cater for the growing impact of development both at Langage and at Sherford, with a view to trying to put pressure on Devon County Council and National Highways to bring about safety improvements, to look at trying to minimise the constant queuing on the A38. So a meeting would be very useful, and I hope very much you would agree to meet us at a convenient time in the future.
I mean, I'm happy to meet, but Councillor Coker would feel awfully left out if he wasn't invited. May I ask him to respond to you? But I'm happy to meet you.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Thank you, Councillor. I'll be delighted to meet both of you with Plimpton councillors. It's just that from an economic development point of view, clearly with the Freeport and your involvement in that industrial development, I think Councillor Coker needs your support too, Councillor Evans, but I'm sure we'll be delighted to meet both of you at your convenience, and I take it that you're happy to do that and look forward to making arrangements, Lord Mayor, in due course. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm very happy to meet. Obviously, this underlines again the case for why Plymouth's boundaries need to expand a little bit so that we can have a bit more control over our traffic to and from the workplace. But once again, the queues down there do underline the fact that a lot of people who live outside of Plymouth look to Plymouth for employment.
Councillor Chris Wood.
Thank you, my Lord Mayor. This is for Councillor Bryce-Delve. Many residents in the Egg-Buckland ward have raised concerns about our city's grass-cutting regime. I fed into the December consultation, and I have a meeting with officers to discuss this further on Friday, which I've extended to my fellow ward councillors. Would the executive member agree with me that it is more beneficial for wildlife for us to sow wildflower meadows than just allowing the grass to grow in an unmanaged way? And would he further agree that more needs to be done to make sure our city appears tidy and well maintained?
Thank you for your question. I'm glad that you're able to engage with that process, which has been very successful over recent years to hear from ward councillors. We made about 70 changes to the regime based on last year's feedback, and I'm sure we'll be doing a similar number this time. I think we should all agree in this chamber that grass cutting and street services more widely is probably the most visible example of the impact of austerity on local government budgets. The grounds team was cut by about a third over a 10-year period, and of course that impacts what we are able to deliver on the ground. But we've got a record over recent years that we are proud of and continuing to try and improve on. The budget we received from the previous administration wasn't sufficient, and the statistics for 2023 are very clear on that. I requested an additional 300 grand per year to focus specifically on grass cutting, and we've already seen an impact on performance data for that. To give you some specific examples, play parks and high-risk junctions were a particular cause of concern, We increased the number from 6 in 2023 to 15 cuts in 2024 because of that additional investment. But I agree with you, I'd like to see the regular cut across more bigger patches of land increased as well. In terms of your question about wildflowers, we very much support the planting of wildflower meadows. There are various examples across the city of enhanced planting regimes. But the council is responsible for hundreds of hectares of land, so it's not possible to do that on every single patch. Ward councillors have the opportunity to use their community grants to do that with Pollinise, for instance. I'll be happy to put you in touch with Chris Avant, who'll be able to advise you more on that. Thank you.
Next is Councillor Will Noble.
Thank you, my Lord Mayor. It's a question for Mark Lowry. Today we approved the papers for the council tax base setting. There's been much speculation in the media. Does the single person discount still apply for Plymouth residents?
I think I heard your question right, but in essence the answer is yes. So the single person's discount that currently exists in legislation, there has been no proposed changes from the Labour government, and therefore, as a consequence of that, we as a chamber do not get the opportunity to make any changes because it's legislative. There has been no change. I'm not aware of any discussions at that level. The officers do engage with the LGA, and there is no feedback that there's any proposals to change that legislation. So the single person's discount that exists would exist for the next financial year or forever unless somebody chooses to change it, but I'm certainly not aware of that. So I can assure you 100% that there are no proposed changes to the scheme.
Thank you. Councillor Bridgman.
Thank you, my Lord Mayor. I'm cheating because I actually haven't got a question as such, but I do have an announcement for Councillor Briers.
You have to ask a question.
I'm sorry.
It's okay, it's a small question.
Well, can you turn it into a question, please?
Councillor Briers-Delve, if that's okay. So thank you. So, I'll come to the question. Due to the recent storms, my husband and I have had to replace the asbestos on our garage roof. So I just wanted to ask, are you going to be putting up prices of asbestos in the future? But the main reason I'm standing up today is to actually say a massive thank you to all the staff at the recycling centre because they've just been incredibly helpful with that whole process, with the bagging and the disposal of the asbestos. So I wanted to say a public thank you to the whole team who've worked incredibly hard over Christmas. Thank you.
That's it. Thanks, sorry. Councillor Stevens. No, I beg your pardon. I thought there was a question or all that.
There was a question there. I just wanted to thank Councillor Bridgman for that feedback. I'll pass it back to the team. Also want to take this opportunity to thank Phil Rudin, who has led at Chelsea Meadow for quite a number of years and who's recently retired. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, Councillor Stevens.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. This question is aimed towards Councillor Aspinall, please. We're all aware of the stacks of ambulances that can wait outside Derriford Hospital, often meaning that patients to-be are waiting overnight at peak times. But can you tell us what extent you believe that the recently confirmed investment from the Labour government for the new emergency department will make to that scenario of the ambulances, please? Thank you.
Thank you for that question. Yes, we've all got to be really, really pleased that we've got that up to 500 million investment for phase 2 of the University Hospital's Derriford site. None of us want to see those queues, none of us, and certainly this new build will make a huge difference to it. Those of us that have been to presentations about what they're planning, I mean, it's just amazing, absolutely amazing what they'll be able to do there. And certainly, we've got to really thank Luke Pollard and Fred Thomas for the work they've put in. I mean, dragging Wes Streeting down to Plymouth was an absolute brilliant point to make, and letting him see how they're working in our ED unit. It's been brilliant. So yes, I'm completely sure that once we've been through the pain for anybody visiting the Derriford site for the next few years of having to negotiate a building site that's going to be carefully managed, I think what will be there in the future will be absolutely wonderful. And I'm hoping we'll be hard-pressed to see a queue of ambulances waiting. So yes, and I think all credit to the hospital for the hard work the management at the hospital have done to make sure of this. And if the council wants another presentation about what the plans are for that phase 2 and for that Derriford site, please let me know and we'll get that organised. And don't forget, they're building a minor injuries unit, a fracture clinic, and another outpatients for rheumatology, etc., up on the further site at the top. So that again is also going to make a difference. So yeah, if you want to visit, want to see what's happening, let me know, and I'll ask the Stuart Windsor from the hospital to come and give a presentation. It might be useful for those of you that haven't seen it before. Thank you.
Councillor Holloway.
Thank you. My questions to the leader, Tudor Evans. Have any estimates been made on the total cost to the taxpayer of a proposed directly elected city mayor, including the cost of elections and costs associated with a mayoral office? Thank you.
The petition for a directly elected mayor has been submitted to the council, but I'm not in a position at the moment to say when the referendum will be held. It has to be held within 6 months of a valid petition being submitted, which means, of course, that means it won't be held in May 2026 on the date that the next set of elections in Plymouth will be held. That means, therefore, that a whole full city operation has to be put into place in order to have a referendum, which means on the current wards, there'll be a polling station, polling staff, counters, and all the usual paraphernalia of holding a valid count. Officers have indicated to me that the cost of that would be some £410,000 to hold a standalone referendum in the summer. On top of that, there would need to be an election. If it was successful, there would need to be an election to be held in May next year for this directly elected mayor. That, in fact, that would coincide with an election for 19 of the 20 Plymouth wards. But in order for it to be a valid mayoral election, all 20 wards would need to have be set up. The additional cost for providing the polling stations, the counting staff, and doing the mayoral count has been estimated at this point at £80,000. So we're actually talking getting on for £500,000 just to run it, and then that is without the mayor itself, who has a salary, has staff. I mean, Patrick Nicholson and myself will recall we estimated back 15, 20 years ago when there was an effort like this, that the cost of a mayor at that point would have been £1 million a year in wages, plus their staffing costs. That's in addition to what the council itself, which would continue to operate with 57 of us, but it would have an additional layer. So the other important thing to say, which hasn't been said in any of the publicity material.
Sorry, Councillor, you're coming. Could you bring that to an end, please?
Yes, of course. I'm happy to answer supplementary.
My supplementary is to ask the leader if he has anything further he'd like to add.
Carry on, leader.
So if you then, the thing to remind people is that the cost of the mayoralty is not out of a precept. In other words, it won't be an additional council tax, but what it will do is have to come out of existing budgets. So in the budget meeting in February, we will have to make an adjustment for £500,000 to cover this referendum plus the election if it's successful. That's out of services or out of balances. And bear in mind, scrutiny told us last week that they wanted to see balances increased. They can't be if the money comes out of balances. But the following year, the cost of the mayor and their office would have to come off services. So that'd be £1 million, maybe £1.5 million of cuts to services to pay for a mayor. The whole idea that this would result in more money for Plymouth is a fallacy, because what would happen is there's no more money for a directly elected mayor for Plymouth and no more power. What there is having to top slice what is currently coming in order to pay the piper, to pay the mayor. And that information has been sadly lacking from all the literature, all the websites, all the propaganda.
Councillor Rainsford.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. My question's to Councillor Aspinall, and it follows on actually from Councillor Stevens' question about the NHS. And I too would like to thank, before I start, Luke Pollard and Fred Thomas MPs for the work they put in making that investment come to the city. However, there's a much bigger piece of work, a mass consultation on the NHS 10-year plan. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to shape the care we receive, how we receive it, where we receive it. So I'd like to ask Councillor Aspinall, what are we doing to encourage Plymothians to take part in that very important consultation?
Thank you, Councillor Rainsford, for bringing this question. For those of you that are tech savvy, and you all know that I'm not, if you go onto the Department of Health and Social Care's website, it's telling you there's a consultation at the moment called Change NHS, Help Build a Health Service Fit for the Future. And since November, they've been asking for people's views. And you can go on in various ways. Some places are organising local meetings. There's an online portal. But it's really, really important that we encourage people to engage in this. There is a session on Friday at the Methodist Central Hall. So what I'm going to do is to ask our comms department to put something on the council's website and make sure it comes out to all of you councillors as to the links as to how to do this, because we need our voices heard. And that, to me, is what's important. So I would ask you all to engage in it. There are various sections that you can answer. For those of you that do work within the NHS, there's a section there for staff. But it affects all of us, going to GPs, going to hospitals, etc. And, 10 years is a long time. We need to get it right. So please, thank you, Councillor Rainsford, for bringing this. And as I say, we need to make sure the comms are up to date, especially about Friday's meeting. Going online is easier, but let's get some faces up there at the Methodist Central Hall on Friday. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Aspinall. And I think it's important that this consultation is not London-centric, but picks up voices across the country.
Councillor Patrick Nicholson.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. It's a question for Councillor Lowry. Councillor Lowry, on a recent Martin Lewis money programme, Mr Lewis criticised local government for those eligible to pay council tax not paying their council tax and having immediately the ability to spread payments over the 12 months being removed, and therefore having to pay the council tax in full at the point that they become in arrears. He quite rightly was saying on his programme that disadvantaged even more those that found it hardest to pay council tax. Through you, could I ask Councillor if he could review the arrangements for Plymouth and satisfy himself in due course that we're fair with those residents that find most difficulty in paying? Particularly as I had experience last year of a resident in Plymouth St Mary Ward receiving one of our standard letters, and despite there being an administrative mix-up, the standard text is if you don't effectively pay up, the council will take action. And the whole language, I think, when somebody has an issue, is not the best form of communication from the local authority. So all I ask is, will he just take that away, reflect on it, review and assure himself, as a cabinet member, that we're treating residents most fairly in the way that we deal with council tax collection? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Nicholson. Yes, of course I will, and I think I've done exactly that in the past, actually, because I would agree with the comments that you've made. That firstly, we put ourselves in a situation where those people who are struggling to pay, we penalise even more by fining them, by going to court. And in addition to that, of course, sometimes there are additional costs that come with that. And I've been working very closely with Councillor Penberry on this very same subject. And you refer to our previous discussion around the council tax support scheme. I've also had discussions around the nature of the letters that are sent to individuals. And I'm of the same opinion as you. And I did make some changes, it would have been some 12 months ago, to soften some of the language used within those letters. In addition to that, we've also had discussions about how we can continue to provide people with the support over a 12-month period instead of a 10-month period. So I think all those things are happening, but I'm very happy to take your suggestion away and carry out a further review and come back to scrutiny or to council on this subject matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Councillor Kate Taylor.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. My question is for Councillor Coker. Following the awful fatality on Ham Drive prior to Christmas and the incident at Pennycross Primary since, my ward colleagues and I have been campaigning for better and improved road safety on Ham Drive, working with residents, the schools on Ham Drive and the parents of children travelling to and from school. Understandably, residents are feeling quite anxious after these incidents, and it's clear that something needs to change. Will you and your officers work with me, Councillor Evans and the Lord Mayor to improve road safety for our children travelling to and from school?
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Yes, I am aware of the tragic incident that happened there. My team are already looking at possible solutions. I think it would be really important that we bring Councillor Stevens, our walking and cycling champion, along to engage in more safer street school projects in that area. I think we all have an onus on road safety. Any fatality on the roads of Plymouth costs this council and its partners nearly £2.7 million, but actually it's more importantly is the life that we need to protect. So yes, Councillor Taylor, more than happy to engage with you and see where we go from here.
Right, the final one I've got here is Councillor Poyser.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Question to Councillor Bryce-Delve. We have hundreds of volunteers giving thousands of hours of their spare time, often the unsung heroes of our communities, doing the unseen work, often the dirty work. And sometimes things go wrong and those community groups end up picking up the pieces. Quite literally this weekend, where we had grass cutters that had churned up lots of litter on Sandy Road. We have litter bins that haven't been replaced, which leads to dog mess being thrown into ditches, leaving just an awful mess, really. And those community litter pickers spend their spare time picking up that mess. I just wondered whether there's anything we could do to work closer together with those communities, those community groups and myself, to ensure these sort of incidents don't happen in the future.
Thank you for your feedback. Really sorry to hear about a couple of incidents, and feel free to share that directly with me. As a council, we work very closely with various community organisations, including Clean Our Patch, who have got to recognise an amazing example, not just for Plymouth, but across the country for every areas to learn from. If there are particular initiatives that you'd like to suggest to better improve that relationship, then I'm all ears. It's also probably a useful opportunity to talk about the work we're trying to do with community groups over the Plymouth Plan for Nature and People, where we've invited over 100 community organisations to inform that process and give as many people as possible an opportunity to reflect on how we look after our green spaces and what we can do more of. And local organisations like Clean Our Patch have been invited to take part in that particular process. Thank you.
Are there any more questions? In that case, that concludes the business of full council. I'm sorry, I didn't see you. Well, go, please.
Yes, question for Councillor Creswell, please. What impact do you think the Children's Wellbeing in Schools Bill will have on children and families in Plymouth?
Thank you for that question, Councillor. Initially, I think two really important things. One, of course, which was linked to what we're debating earlier today, will be the universal free school breakfast clubs for primary age children. And this is going to be rolled out, what will be from next academic year. But in the meantime, there are going to be 750 what are going to be early adopter schools, and I think we've got a couple that are going to be in Plymouth, in which there'll be a sort of a trial pilot of rolling this out, what will be during the summer term. And I think this will be really important in terms of the fact of providing nourishing breakfast, but also it's about that gentle start to the school day, which I think will be so important, and real security for parents knowing that there's that proper wraparound care so that they can confidently leave their children in school and be able to go off and they're supported economically as far as working is concerned. The second one that I think is going to have a particular impact, and something that's close to our hearts, we're always ahead of the game in this chamber, is actually about school uniform and the issues as far as expensive branded uniforms. And certainly from 2026, there is going to be legislation that will come in so that schools can only have 3 branded items, one of which can be including a tie, and it's reckoned that will save parents probably about £50 a year, which is really important, really interesting that we as a council moved back in September, I think it was, 2022, unanimously in favour of this very issue about doing something effectively to cut down on expensive branded school items for parents.
Right, well, is there anybody else that I missed? No, right. That does conclude the business of the full council, and thank you for your time and engagement. I wish you and all those watching a good evening and hope you all stay safe and well. Thank you.